Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Society of New Haven. Let me extend a heartfelt welcome to all of you attending the service in person and on Zoom. My name is Lisa Anderson, and I'm a member of the worship committee. Jim Peters is joining me as a worship associate today. Why 2 worship associates? Well, today we're embarking on yet another experiment into the world of in-person and online worship. Our amazing tech team, headed by Rob Cam, have added additional layers and levels of complexity and opportunity for creating worship. We ask for your support and patience as we move into these new dimensions of possibility. We welcome to the pulpit this week Unitarian Universalist Service Committee Associate Director of Development for Congregation Relations, the Reverend Laura Randall, who is joining us by Zoom. As a member of the Uusc's development team, Laura facilitates partnerships to strengthen the impact of the Uusc and the social justice reach of our UU communities. Through preaching, teaching, relationship building, and fundraising, Laura connects the work of the Uusc to Unitarian Universalist congregations. She holds a master's degree in divinity from Harvard Divinity School and a bachelor's degree in English and Communication Studies. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are in your life's journey, you are welcome here. We are a diverse, multi-generational faith community that inspires lives of compassion and generosity, nurtures spiritual growth, cultivates transformative connections, and creates a more just world. This is a congregation that believes that Black lives matter, that every person has a right to affirm their own gender identity and expression, and that all people are inherently worthy. Let us acknowledge that we gather today on the ancestral lands of the Quinnipiac and other Native peoples. We commit ourselves to the action it takes to heal the wounds of the past and the present in the ongoing work of reconciliation, love, and justice. If you're joining us for the first time, we're so glad that you chose to spend time with us this morning. So those of us in the sanctuary, you kind of know the drill. Silence your mobile devices. And also remember that masks are mandatory inside the USNH buildings, and that's for everyone's safety. We relaxed the bathroom rules so more than one person can use the facility. Things are getting a little better, as long as everyone, again, remains masked. At the end of the service, we know you like to greet each other. That's great. But please make your way out of the sanctuary as soon as you can and meet outside. It's really safer for everybody. So now I invite you to settle in for worship, take a relaxing breath, and let us worship together.
I offer these words by Elizabeth Strong. Today we celebrate a dream awakening. Today we worship with renewed hope in our hearts. Today we act on an audacity of hopes and dreams for the future. Today we begin the hard work for justice, equity, and compassion in all human relations. For today is a day like no others, and it is ours to be shaped with vision and action. Let us worship together and celebrate a dream awakening. And now, as Lisa lights the chalice in the sanctuary, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the history of the flaming chalice. It has been a beloved symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith for some time now. The image of the flaming chalice was originally designed for use for the Unitarian Service Committee in 1940 by a Dutch cartoonist named Hans Doest, when he was a refugee himself. The Unitarian Service Committee needed a symbol that wouldn't alert the Nazis to the nature of their work, while still being immediately recognizable as a symbol of hope and safety to those escaping Nazi persecution. Today, the flaming chalice is kindled in congregations and homes around the world, still signaling our commitment to courage, community, and justice. We light it now with these values in mind.
It's great to be at that age where you need different glasses for everything. Wow. So I think you can hear me if I do this. And I think what I'm going to do is use my third grade teacher voice with my mask on. And if you can't hear me, please just do that so I'll know. Why do we ask each other to share our words of covenant each week? Well, if they are just words, then that is indeed a problem, isn't it? For me, it isn't just about the words. For me, I believe we choose today to be together in community at this moment. We choose to be here now. Not there then, here now. And that includes everyone who is here now virtually. I see you. We are choosing this, and in choosing this community, we are choosing to be guided by principles. It's not the same as reciting a creed of theological truths. We aren't telling each other what to believe. We are trying to speak to how we treat each other, how we value each other, how we respect each other, how we come to make this community beloved. That's what I hold when I recite the words of the covenant, words that appear in the order of service or in the chat on the live stream, words I invite you to say with me now. We covenant together to create and nurture a culture of respect and kindness, and to engage in the spiritual and everyday practice of loving more generously. To this end, we will strive to be open, value differences, listen deeply, use kind language, speak our truths, work with conflict, seek humor and joy.
Good morning, everyone. For now, for the safety of all in our community, we ask that you refrain from singing along while Erica and I sing the hymn, but we invite you to listen, reflect on the words, and contemplate the music as you wish. My life flows on in endless song. Flows on in endless song above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, though far off hymn that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? What through the tempest round me roars, I know the truth it liveth. What though the darkness round me close, songs in the night it giveth. No storm
one can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love prevails in heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing? When tyrants tremble as they hear the bells of freedom ringing, when friends rejoice both far and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cell and dungeon vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends by shame are undefiled, how can I keep from singing?
Hello. Today I want to tell you a story about how the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC, began. It all started over 80 years ago when Unitarians in the United States were watching what was happening in Europe, and they were getting very worried. They were worried because a man named Hitler and the people he was leading, called the Nazis, were becoming very powerful and hurting a lot of people. The Nazis believed some very mean and wrong things. They believed the only people who were any good were people who were just like them. They wanted everyone to be the same as they were. And if you weren't, well, they would kick you out of your house, they would take all of your things, they wouldn't let you work, and eventually, they started killing people who they thought were different from them. Jewish people, gay people, people with disabilities, all of them were targets of the Nazis during this time. It was very scary. What do you think you would do if you saw something like this happening? Would you want to help? Would people in your UU community want to help too? It was the same over 80 years ago. The Unitarians wanted to help people in Europe who were being targeted by the Nazis. So, a Unitarian minister and his wife from Wellesley, Massachusetts, Waitstill and Martha Sharp, went to Europe to see how they could help people there. They found lots of ways to help when they got there, but they had to be creative because the Nazis were always watching, and it would be dangerous if they got caught. The Sharps helped get the paperwork people needed to escape to safer places. Sometimes they would even sneak people past guards wearing disguises. They also helped people, including kids like you, get food and clothing in a time when it was very hard to find both. The Sharps were very brave, but they didn't do this work alone. They worked with people in the Jewish communities in Europe. They worked with the other Unitarians in the United States who sent them money and other supplies so more people could be helped. That is how the Unitarian Service Committee, now called UUSC, got started. Today, UUSC still works around the world to help people who are being treated badly find safety and have their human rights respected. We work with migrant communities who fled their homes in Central America and are seeking asylum in the United States. We work with Rohingya Muslims in Burma who are facing inhumane treatment and displacement by their government. We work with people around the world whose home communities are threatened by climate change, and many more. Both back then and today, UUs come together through the UU Service Committee to work with people who need it most. And we will continue to be there to help in the future, because Unitarian Universalists believe in doing what we can to make the world a better and safer place for everyone. Thank you for the ways you help us do this work. We couldn't do it without everyone joining together. Thank you for listening to this story.
Some of us bear burdens. Nice little effect. Some of us bear burdens made lighter as others help us carry it. Some of us hold joys and shine more brightly as others reflect our delight. Let us hold Kathy Jackson in light and love. She is having knee surgery on Tuesday. This is a revision of a knee replacement procedure. She writes that best wishes and thoughts would be appreciated. For the joys and sorrows that have not been spoken, but which remain in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts, we bear witness. Together, let us give thanks for the community of care and love.
Let me invite you now in these next few moments to find a center in the midst of this turning world and the many pressures of life. Let us enter into a spirit of meditation, prayer, and reflection. I offer this blessing from Jan Richardson. It's called Blessing When the World is Ending. Look. The world is always ending somewhere. Somewhere the sun has come crashing down. Somewhere it has gone completely dark. Somewhere it has ended with a gun, the knife, the fist. Somewhere it has ended with the slammed door, the shattered hope. Somewhere it has ended with the utter quiet that follows the news from the phone, the television, the hospital room. Somewhere it has ended with a tenderness that will break your heart. But listen, this blessing means to be anything but morose. It has not come to cause despair. It is simply here because there is nothing a blessing is better suited for than an ending. Nothing that cries out more for a blessing than when a world is falling apart. This blessing will not fix you, will not mend you, will not give you false comfort. It will not talk to you about one door opening when another closes. It will simply sit itself beside you among the shards and gently turn your face toward the direction from which the light will come, gathering itself about you as the world begins again. Let us be together in several moments of silence. Blessed be, and amen.
In the principles of Unitarian Universalism and the Universalist Declaration of Human Rights. At UUSC, we seek to advance human rights, dismantle systems of oppression, and uphold the inherent dignity and worth of every human being.
Founded in 1940, UUSC addresses the needs of people who've been ignored or overlooked, working in places where the larger aid agencies often do not.
We are committed to building upon a legacy that is rooted in locally led initiatives, working hand in hand, eye to eye, and heart to heart with community leaders and grassroots organizations in the United States and around the world.
Today, UUSC has over 30,000 members, partnering with more than 40 grassroots organizations. Our programs span across 20 countries in Asia, the South Pacific, Central America, and the United States.
We do our work in 3 ways: through advocacy and action with UU congregations, UUSC members, and our incredible volunteers. through education and experiences with the UU College of Social Justice, and through grant-making, convenings, and collaborative research.
With our partners, we address human rights issues including disaster justice, emergency relief in the face of natural or human-made crises, climate action, working with communities who are losing their homes due to climate change, and criminalization, partnering with communities who are targeted simply for their activism or being who they are, immigrants, LGBTQ people, and ethnic and religious minorities.
And this past year, we have been working with our grassroots partners to meet the unique human rights challenges presented by the COVID-19 crisis.
We know that UUSC members expect us to always be learning and be bold in our programming and our commitment to human rights.
We want you to have confidence in our work. UUSC is a terrific investment for your philanthropic support. Our budget goes far to accomplish so much for human rights in the U.S. and around the world.
And for 10 years running, UUSC has earned 4 stars, the highest possible rating from Charity Navigator, because of our effectiveness and fiscal transparency.
It is an exciting time at UUSC. We are grateful to you and to all of our members for your partnership and for putting your faith in us. You make our work possible. Thank you.
Thank you, UUSC supporters.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you so much for your support.
And thank you for putting your faith in us.
For all that you do to advance human rights.
We really appreciate it.
We couldn't do the work we do around the world without you.
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alerts. This was all planned, I'm just saying. And by texting UUSC to 52886. Gifts of $150 or more from individuals are eligible to be matched, dollar for dollar, by a generous grant from the UU congregation at Shelter Rock. So thank you for your generosity and your commitment to human rights at this critical time.
Lisa and I will be sharing the reading this morning. This poem is called V. Ahatva by Aurora Levins Morales. This poem is by Jewish American activist Aurora Levins Morales. It is called V. Ahatva. It is the first word of the Shema prayer, which is traditionally recited every morning and every evening. It is translated in English as, "You shall love." So here is Morales offering us another version of V. Ahatva. Lisa and I will share this reading. Say these words when you lie down and when you rise up, when you go out and when you return, in times of mourning and in times of joy. Inscribe them on your doorposts, embroider them on your garments, tattoo them on your shoulders, teach them to your children, your neighbors, your enemies. Recite them in your sleep, here in the cruel shadow of empire. Another world is possible. Thus spoke the prophet Roque Dalton. All together they have more death than we, but all together we have more life than they. There is more bloody death in their hands than we could ever wield unless we lay down our souls to become them, and then we will lose everything. So instead, imagine winning. This is your sacred task. This is your power. Imagine every detail of winning, the exact smell of the summer streets in which no one has been shot, the muscles you have never unclenched from worry, gone soft as the newborn skin. The sparkling taste of food when we know that no one on earth is hungry, that the beggars are fed, that the old man under the bridge and the woman wrapping herself in thin sheets in the back seat of a car, and the children who suck on stones nest under a flock of roofs that keep multiplying their shelter. Lean with all your being towards that day when the poor of the world shake down a rain of good fortune out of the heavy clouds, and justice rolls down like waters.
Defend the world in which we win as if that were your child. It is your child. Defend it as if it were your lover. It is your lover. When you inhale and when you exhale, breathe the possibility of another world into the 37.2 trillion cells of your body until it shines with hope. Then imagine more. Imagine rape is unimaginable. Imagine war is a scarcely credible rumor. That the crimes of our age, the grotesque inhumanities of greed, the sheer and astounding shamelessness of it, the vast fortunes made by stealing lives, the horrible normalcy it came to have, is unimaginable. Unimaginable to our heirs, the generations of the free. Don't waver. Don't let despair sink its sharp teeth into the throat with which you sing. Escalate your dreams. Make them burn so fiercely that you can follow them down any dark alleyway of history and not lose your way. Make them burn clear as a starry drinking gourd over the grim fog of exhaustion and keep walking. Hold hands, share water, keep imagining so that we and the children of our children's children may live.
Hello, friends. It is so good to be virtually with you today. And I'm really grateful for this opportunity to explore beloved community with you and share a bit about the work UUSC is doing now as we partner with justice makers from around the world. And it's also good to be able to get to know your wonderful community a little bit better. I've really enjoyed these past few weeks learning more about your work offering community support to refugees, your commitment to anti-racism, and your partnerships with local interfaith organizations, as well as national Unitarian Universalist organizations, such as UUSC. The many ways you're living out your values in New Haven and beyond is seen and appreciated. Thank you. Because the world is crying out for these values of justice, compassion, and liberation right now. The challenges before us are great. Institutionalized racism, climate-forced displacement, the criminalization of human beings based on their identity, a deadly global pandemic. As these combined situations transition from acute to chronic, we must remember that going back to business as usual is not an option. Not if we seek to live up to the values we espouse as Unitarian Universalists and create a world with more justice, a world in which everyone's needs are met, a world where the earth that sustains us is honored and cared for, a world where everyone's full humanity is seen and appreciated. This is the world that we call beloved community. This is a world built on love, a liberatory love, the kind of love that allows us to stay in the struggle until everyone is welcome, everyone is whole, everyone is free. This is what we're being called to now in so many ways, co-creating beloved community that looks to partners, not saviors, that looks to justice, not the status quo, a community that reaches toward life, not harmful ideology. Dr. Cornel West reminds us that justice is what love looks like in public. And justice is central to the beloved community we are trying to create. Justice, as it is conceived of in much of American society, is often thought of as something separate from us, an impartial system perhaps, or an objective ideal that somehow resides outside of human bonds. In reality, though, relationship is at the core of justice. Justice is co-created between people and between communities. And this means that justice is foundational to forming the beloved community. And this also means that justice requires more than charity, at least charity as it has become to be practiced by many. Charity is not really possible in relationship, not mutual, respectful, equitable relationship. Charity implies that I, with my hard-earned and well-deserved affluence, wisdom, or whatever it is I happen to have, can fix what is broken in you. There's a dangerous idea that lives in this kind of charity. An idea that says that if I have earned the wealth and education to exercise this benevolent power, then there must be some reason you have not. It's not that we consciously think we are better, or not usually, but the impact remains. And so charity like this can perpetuate inequity. For all of us, I believe this is hard to resist. And for those of us with particular kinds of privilege, it is especially hard because of the deeply ingrained systems of white male superiority and advantage that live in our hearts and in our institutions. Justice shatters entitlement and any Calvinist notion that our social and economic circumstances are the result of our goodness. This is what we mean by inherent worth. We didn't earn it. You can't earn it, it just is. At UUSC, we also like to say inherent power, to acknowledge a person's power to determine their lives, agency. In her writings, Author Rachel Naomi Remen cautions against the kind of service that implies helping in order to fix others. Instead, she offers a way to understand justice work as being in service of wholeness. I love this phrase, being in service of wholeness. This idea is also found in the words of Australian Indigenous activist Lilla Watson when she says, "If you've come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." Activist and author Adrienne Marie Brown in her book, Emergent Strategy, also speaks to this idea. Emergent strategy is the practice of looking to instances of right relationship in the natural and human worlds and following their examples. One example currently is the movement for Black Lives, where the leadership is intentionally diffuse and organic, drawing on the wealth of experience and gifts that are inherent in the community itself. Far from diluting the power of the movement, this model of mutual support, affirmation, and challenge strengthens it. The movement is creative and resilient, having the agility and flexibility to meet the needs of the moment when those needs are growing and changing daily. And these grassroots leadership models also provide the space for the moral imagination necessary today. Brown points to mutually supportive, morally grounded, and imaginative community-based solutions such as these as the animating force and redemptive power of justice work today. It is the foundation of beloved community. It is life reaching towards life. The Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, better known as UUSC, is also part of this journey, one that has shifted our work from charity to justice, from depending on a few key leaders to centering grassroots partnerships and leader-full movements. Founded in 1940 in response to the rise of Nazism in Europe, UUSC began as a mission by a Unitarian minister and his wife, Waitstill and Martha Sharp, who traveled to Prague in order to do what they could to get as many Jews and political dissidents being targeted by the Nazis to safety. As the war continued, they were forced to move frequently, but managed to distribute desperately needed food and supplies sent by Unitarians in the United States, and even organized the first child safety transport trains, which later became the model used in Britain. As the years went on, the Unitarian Service Committee, which later became the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, expanded its global work, sending aid to places around the world facing famine and disaster. Over time, however, our human rights work began to focus more on systemic justice issues. If you were to look at a timeline of all the work UUSC has engaged in the last 80 years, you see the words provided and supplied frequently used in the 1940s and 50s. In the 1960s, you start to see the word joined. UUSC joined in the desegregation campaign in Georgia, for instance. Then in the 1970s, you start to see the beginnings of what we continue to do today. The most prominent word becomes partnered. Grassroots partnership, following the leadership of those affected by the injustices we are trying to address. And we are still on this journey, always seeking to learn more and do better, knowing that justice work is complex and evolving, and we must be flexible and humble in order to meet the challenges before us, even as we remain rooted in our Unitarian Universalist values. Today, UUSC works with over 70 grassroots organizations all over the world, from Burma to the South Pacific to Central America to right here in the United States. Our work now focuses on climate-forced displacement, crisis response, and migrant justice. While those initiatives may seem unrelated at first glance, they are at their core all interconnected. These issues are about the right to security within our homes, the right to restore our homes when they're ravaged by natural or human-made disaster, and the right to seek new homes elsewhere. When I was at the Arizona border prior to the start of the pandemic on a UU College's social justice trip, I met with some of our UUSC partners in person. Many told us their stories of what they endured to come to the United States for the sake of their families and their own lives. What stood out to me over and over again was the imagination and commitment they needed, especially in the most dire of circumstances, to envision that another world was possible for them, another life. One man, Miguel, has spent his entire life in the border towns of Nogales, Arizona, and Sonora, Mexico, and has witnessed during the last 25 years these towns go from being virtually indistinguishable from each other to having an enormous barrier of concrete, steel mesh, and barbed wire cut through his home like a wound. Miguel now gives tours of the barrier wall to visitors so that people who don't live in border towns can see what it's really like, from the armed guard towers to the families who gather on a few gritty patches of bare earth and steep embankments on either side of the barrier to talk, though they cannot get close to each other. We also met a woman, Carolina, who walked from Honduras to the Arizona border to ask for asylum. As a trans woman, she fled her home in fear for her life after her father and later her boyfriend tried to kill her. While her asylum case was pending, she was forced to stay in a US immigration detention center for 3 years. When she was finally granted asylum, this was before the previous administration eliminated gender-based violence as a basis to claim asylum, Carolina met several other trans women who were navigating the immigration system. Together, they formed a community called Casa Mariposa, which offers a safe place to stay and support for LGBTQ migrants in Tucson and the nearby detention facilities. The work that Miguel and Carolina are doing, the work that all of UUSC partner organizations are doing, began as acts of love, with the question, what does love look like here? And what can I do to act in service of the wholeness we long for? We are linked together in this justice work, friends, both because of our shared Unitarian Universalist values, the justice work you engage in locally, and also by your support of UUSC. You are part of the journey from charity to justice to liberation. This is one of the countless ways we become beloved community, even as we seek to create it. It's one of the many beautiful mysteries of beloved community. It is something we become as we reach for it. The beloved community both is here and it's on its way. And it will never fully be realized. For even as we create the more just and loving world we dream of today, new people with new imaginative horizons will arrive, sharing with us visions of what radical love and radical welcome call us to next. And that too is liberation. That too is how we care for a planet that could sustain all of us. That too is beloved community. We each have a role to play in its creation. Each of us bringing our broken, growing selves in service to wholeness. Recognizing that your liberation is bound up with mine and no one is free until everyone is free. Beloved community is leaderful, joy-filled, imperfect, challenging, and flexible. It is life reaching towards life. May the love that gives your life meaning be that love of family, love of learning, love of the earth, or love of justice, bolster and sustain you. And may you share that love extravagantly with people near and far as we continue to create the beloved community together. Blessed be, and amen.
are building a new way. We are building a new way. We are building a new way, feeling stronger every day. We are building a new way. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. We are working to be free. Hate and greed and jealousy. We are working to be free. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. We can feed our every need. Start with love, that is the seed. We can feed our every need. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Peace and freedom is our cry. Without these, this world will die. Peace and freedom is our cry.
Friends, we extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts, who we are together.
Friends, may we find abundant opportunities to be in service to wholeness. May we follow the leadership of those so often pushed to the margins, and may we continue to seek out the ways, large and small, of building the beloved community together. Blessed be, and amen.